Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Village Council Work Session meeting to order at 9 a.m. on August 28th, 2025. I need we do not have full quorum. We are missing Andy Wortman and Bob Markleese, and we have Mayor Joe participating remotely, so I need a motion to allow the mayor to participate remotely, if you guys want him to, you know.
I heard that.
Oh, sorry. Oh, hi, Mr. Mayor.
You're coming out of the ceiling.
Hey,
Well, then I'll second that.
All right. So all's in favor?
Aye.
All right.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, so adoption of the agenda. I have one addition under consent agenda. Number 4, information only, July 2025 Finance Director Treasurer's Report. If we can add that to the agenda. Besides that, I don't have any other additions, subtractions. Does anybody else? Nope.
And here,
Okay, hearing none, I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. All right, moving on. Adoption of the previous minutes. Did everybody have a chance to look at them?
Not seen anything on my end.
All right, any questions, changes?
I had
concerns?
one quick one.
Yes, sir.
Austin, at the end of my comments, if you look at it, it looks like you were going to say something that I noted something about the thing and then it just went blank. So you can just erase whatever, unless there was something you missed there.
I
I
very
can't
well
hear you.
may have forgotten to finish a sentence. I will take a quick look.
I don't see where you're talking about,
No,
Mr.
Joe,
Mayor.
I don't see the part you're talking about. If you can be a little more specific.
Give me a second here. Let me pull it up. I looked at it. If you go down to, maybe it's not there, maybe it got updated or something like that and you finished it. One quick sec.
Are you talking about council comments or?
It may have been somewhere else. It just said something about he noted, and then it didn't say anything else after that, but I'm not seeing it now. So
There, he
maybe,
says, he noted that school will be back soon.
right, but then there was something else. Okay, it's fine. I'm not seeing it now. I just noted it on my thing, but I don't, maybe it was something that was updated when I got the new,
Okay,
what
well,
was missed. But,
all
oh,
right.
here it is. Here it is.
Where?
Coffee with council debrief. That's,
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's with coffee with council debrief. Mayor Polina, Councilman Dethridge,
Oh, yeah.
staff. And then you just said he
Yep.
noted.
I'll fix that.
Okay.
I'll take that out.
All right.
Thank you.
So I need a motion to approve the minutes from 8/12/2025 as amended.
So moved.
Further discussion? All's in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Feedback from previous public comment period? All right, presentations? Nope. All right, reports and updates, managers report. Christina?
Good morning. I have a couple of things. Let's see. Number 1, Wounded Heroes update. Inside of your agenda packets, the Independence Fund has submitted some kind of landscape architect elevations, site plans, I should say. Wanted you guys to look over them. Councilman Wortman was kind of on a working group to submit some ideas. He submitted like a hand drawing, which kind of reflects the second image inside of your agenda packets, which has like little star around the flagpole. So just wanted you all to look at these options, see which ones you like, and then let me proceed with having discussions with them about going ahead and getting the project started.
I like concept A with star inlay. I think that looks very nice.
Is that the only one sketch that we saw? Because I think that might be the only one.
No, if you go to, keep going,
Second attachment.
Second attachment.
you got a bunch, you got like 5 different options.
You have 6.
There's two stars. One's concept A and then one's concept
Concept
C.
C. I like the circular one better than the
Yeah,
square rectangle
that
one.
one's nice.
So you want
You see
concept
it,
A? Yep, I
John?
got
Oh,
it.
yeah, I got it.
Got it?
I
Okay.
got it now.
And the hand drawing that Councilman Wortman drew up was on the very last page of your agenda. I don't know what the attachment's actually called in the agenda packet, but
Yeah, kind of the pre-done ones were in the second attachment, and then
Yeah.
the sketch was on the third.
Yeah.
so if everybody's okay with concept A, with the star inlay, then I'll proceed with advising them and we can go from there. Any objections to that?
No, I like it.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Me too. Mayor Joe?
Yeah, I was just pointing, I can't really tell which one was concept A, but I see the one that's sort of rounded with the star. I do like that.
If you look at the very bottom, it says, it'll say concept A
Oh,
with
there,
star
okay,
inlay.
it's not a full screen. That's why it was
No.
blocking it. Okay.
No,
Concept
no
A, yep.
objections to that?
No.
Okay.
But I would also just like to point out that I'd like to send my condolences to the Verardo family because Michael Verardo passed away. So I'd like to send our condolences to them. So it's, yeah.
Oh, wow. Sad to hear.
Could we just clarify again, though? Because when I look at concept A, that's not the one with the star.
There's two. Scroll down one
It
more
says
page.
concept A with star inlay. There's concept A,
Okay,
and there's concept A with star inlay.
got you.
Do you see it?
Yep.
Is everybody good with that?
Concept A with star inlay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. Moving on to no loitering trail hours. You all had asked us to put this on the work session for discussion. In conversations with the sheriff's department, we can have some no loitering ordinances, but it has to be for a specific purpose, like, no loitering for drug use, or it has to be very specific as to what type of loitering you're looking for. The only other option that the sheriff's department suggested is if you guys wanted to do trail hours, you could do that. I know that's something that we've discussed before. This council's not desired that. If I remember correctly, and Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, you had actually asked the PRG board if they were interested in trail hours, and do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, I do remember us speaking about it, and we did speak about it within the PRG as well, I believe. And, one of the concerns with that is, there's a lot of people that may get up and run the trails early in the mornings or things like that. People work many different hours and do stuff like that. So, I think the thought was, we're not encountering any issues at this point in time that, if something is suspicious or going, a bit awry, anybody has the ability to call authorities, currently as it stands and have them check something out. But I think when we came back, I did think we discussed it here at council level as well and kind of thought the same things, but maybe I'm just confusing that with PRG discussion.
I do. I vaguely remember you guys speaking about it before, and I don't think there was any desire to move forward on that, so.
I think we're trying to fix something that's not broken. That's just my opinion of it. I mean, if there were issues being brought up on a regular basis, again, the first thing I would do is defer back to PRG. If PRG brings that concern to us and say they see an issue with it, then I think that's a topic that we discuss and we consider again. But until PRG comes back, or we see that the sheriff's department is being drawn in more and more, but I just think we're trying to fix something that's not broken. Just my opinion.
Well, if that's the kind of consensus of the entire board, I'm just going to not bring this back up unless it comes back up naturally and organically. We had brought it up before, but is
I
that?
think that's fine.
Does anyone have any objections to that?
Not at all.
Nope.
Okay. That's all I have under manager's report.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, Clerk and Communications.
Okay, you've got your monthly list of communications in your packets for September. Beyond the normal meeting schedules and coffee with councils, we'll be doing promotions for the community survey, the community shred event that has been organized for September 27th. We'll be doing promotions for trick or treat in the park. And I don't have it on here, but we'll also be doing promotions for the bulk drop-off day, which is scheduled in October. As far as communications goes, this is all we have planned at the moment. Is there anything else you guys would like to add?
I don't see anything.
Okay. Second thing, community survey, we are on schedule. We had a Zoom meeting with Central Lina yesterday. They are in the process now of finalizing the postcard order. Those should be going in the mail within the next 2 weeks. My goal right now is for those to be in the mail the week of the regular meeting between the 8th and the 12th, with the survey to formally open to the public on the 15th of September. That's a Monday. It will be open for 2 months. And they're planning, once the survey closes in mid-November, they'll have they'll have time over the holidays and around a month additional to generate the report, and they'll come back at the January work session for full results and presentation.
Austin, I know that the postcards themselves are, coded by family.
Correct.
So that each residence in Marvin has the ability to fill out a survey. But let's say that a resident at some point doesn't see that they got a postcard, or, one of the kids threw it out, from the mail. Is there a way that that resident can still participate in the survey? And could you just explain how they would do that?
So if we've been working this out with Central Lina, if someone misplaces their postcard, they lose it, they throw it away, they don't get it, we'll be doing some promotions towards the end of September saying if you've not received your postcard by this date, please contact Central Lina at this email address. They will confer with the resident and get them a new code so they can log in to complete the survey.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure there was, a way for somebody to do something like that if it was misplaced or didn't get delivered for some reason.
Yeah, we did think of that. So we should be good to go on that project. We're excited to get it off the ground. One final update for you all. Last week I was at my conference with the North Carolina Association of Municipal Clerks. I'm pleased to inform you that I've been appointed and confirmed to be on their board of directors for the next 2 years. So I'm excited to work more closely with my clerk colleagues, and I'll be over a 7-county jurisdiction. So looking forward to continuing my professional development with the association and making you guys and Marvin proud.
Great job, Austin.
Congratulations.
Very nice.
Congrats, Austin.
That's amazing.
Congrats.
Good job.
Also, I have one. While you were gone,
Oh, Lord.
we came up with a firm date and everything for Marvin Shred Day.
Yes, you told me it was September 27th.
Yeah, okay. I didn't, oh, here it is. I can't see. This
You're
one.
fine.
Thank you.
We'll be doing promotions for those starting beginning of September. So they'll have at least 3 full weeks of promotions for that.
Okay, and that's a Saturday, so.
Yes.
It's
Very good.
Any other questions, you guys?
Nope. Anything else from you?
That's all.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much, Austin. Planners report. Hunter, come on down.
Good morning. Just 2 items real quick. First being, the village is working on obtaining their Tree City USA accreditation. One of the last steps or requirements is for us to do a Arbor Day proclamation event. We will be putting that on the agenda for the September meeting and having that tree planting Arbor Day event the second Saturday in October, partnering with Habitat Builders and doing an event at the park. So more information on that to come. Just wanted to kind of make sure you guys were at least aware. Once we complete that, we'll package up everything and submit it and hopefully get our accreditation for that. So
Did you say second Saturday in September?
October, sorry. Second Saturday in October.
Can you tell us what the criteria is to be a Tree City USA city?
I can. In short, there's 4 steps. One being is that you got to have a public tree ordinance or regulations within your ordinances regarding maintenance of trees and stuff. We do. You have to have somebody professional on staff or contract or whatever regarding a tree professional, Keith. Third is that the village has to spend $2 per capita, $2 per capita on tree care and planting. I have a list of that, of what all counts as qualified expenses on that, and I'll be getting with Jill to confirm. But for the most part, the routine maintenance that we do with our tree contract with the at the park and here at Village Hall, as well as there's other voluntary time commit, or you can supplement time for your costs, if that makes sense. And then the final is you're having a municipal Arbor Day. This was kind of the one thing that we've been working towards, and we're doing the second Saturday in October to hopefully make it an annual event, something that will always be on that same day moving forward. It's the beginning of the tree planting season that fall, and so that's kind of the intent behind that. But that's kind of the last step of our criteria.
And that would include kind of the tree nursery that we have over at the park.
Correct.
Right? Any efforts we make in developing that.
Correct, yeah.
Very good, thank you.
And then the second thing is that the Marvin Ridge High School marching band has asked to see if they could put a banner advertising their, I think the marching band competition. Joe, do you know anything about that?
It's a Union County preview, so it's all Union County schools that come in, and they usually host it for years. They host the event there. It kind of gives you a preview of what the schools are going to be doing. It's a great event. It's a very good fundraiser for them, and it's inviting all the schools in neighboring towns and stuff in Union County.
In short, they've submitted a temporary banner permit to put one here on Village Hall property. We just kind of typically always ask council if that is okay with you guys before we approve the permit. They had one up on Village Hall this same time last year for the same event.
I have no problems with that. Anybody got any issues? Nope.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
All right, then we'll get that permit issued today. Other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you very much. All right, up next, Parks and Rec report. Tyler.
What's up, everybody? So, October 24th, trick or treat in the park. It'll be from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's a Friday evening. We are building a big list of vendors. It's still August, and we have 11 already. So we're looking to have, about 40 vendors out there, ton of candy for the kids. In the past, we have done a movie kind of as the conclusion of the event. This year, we're just going to make it a trick-or-treat all the way through. We're going to get light towers out there, so after dark, the kids can just kind of keep on going, and we'll wrap it up at 9 o'clock. So it's just a trick-or-treat. We'll have bounce houses and some fun stuff out there. So definitely mark your calendars for that one.
And Tyler, how many people have typically attended this event over the past?
1,000, 1,500. It's a big to-do.
So that would be pretty successful,
Some would say.
some would say. Yeah, okay, I would say.
Sometimes too successful.
Sometimes a little.
We got the parking straightened out.
Okay, just checking. Okay, thank you.
And then, so November 15th, you'll notice I'd sent you all new calendar invites. So November 15th, we'll do another Marvin Carr show. It will not be the 8th. It'll be November 15th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Bring your...
Mr. Mayor, mark your calendar that the date changed, so you don't show up on the 8th.
Where am I? I saw it come through, and I was like bummed that it wasn't going to happen, but I didn't realize you rescheduled already, so thank you. 15th, 8 a.m., got it.
15th, 8 a.m. Bring your classic cars out there. If you're just in the public, want to come see some cool rides, come on out. It's a great morning. It'll be nice and crispy in November, so it'll feel good. Come get some coffee. We'll have breakfast food trucks, coffee trucks, some vendors. So it'll definitely be a cool morning. Also, in the month of November, we do a friendship tree where you come by Village Hall, and we partner up with the Union County Christmas Bureau, and you can grab and adopt a kid's name from a tree, pick up a tag, fill out a form, and then you're responsible for that child's Christmas, and you really get to give back and help a local child. We're in the process of applying for that right now. I just got the request form, so I will get with some of our volunteer groups who help us out, and we'll discuss how many participants we're going to take on this year. And then lastly, at the end of the year, tree lighting, December 6th, first Saturday in December. It's from 5 to 7 p.m. Santa Claus, hot chocolate, cookies, music, good times. That's about it.
Say the
Tyler,
time- say
when
the-
is the Christmas tree thing start?
5 p.m. It'll be from 5 to 7 on December 6th.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Christmas tree, the, where you pull the tags out for the kids and to purchase things.
Oh, yeah, so the Friendship Tree, we like it to start right in the beginning of November. We're kind of at the will of when we get the names for our tags, but it's usually at the end of October, very beginning of November. We like for it to be November 1st, but
Okay.
Hey, Tyler, I know we normally give an opportunity for the Marvin Ridge Choir and Band to participate, and with school just starting, I know they get their requests in for those things pretty early, so
yeah.
do you have direct contact with,
I do,
forget
yes,
her name.
with Miss Johnson.
She's gone.
She's no longer.
Oh,
at
what?
the,
She just got there.
okay,
Oh,
there, so-
I do not have direct lines.
Emmanuel Ross is your new contact, I can get you his contact info.
Yeah.
Okay,
and then
okay.
for the choir as well?
Yes, that's yeah.
Olivia,
Yeah, we usually put that, you always usually help, we put that request in, because I think they're out caroling that night usually, and they stop by.
Yeah.
So do you want John to help you with that again?
Absolutely, and I need the mayor to drop the contact. But I think I do have Olivia's contact from years
I'll
past.
reach out to her and copy you in.
Perfect.
All right, Joe, you're going to get Tyler that information?
Yeah, there may be two, because I just overheard with my wife talking that there may be someone else involved with the choir part versus the band part, so we'll figure it out.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
Nope, all right.
good.
Anybody has questions for Tyler? Nope, okay, thank you. All right, next up, Public Works Report. Christina?
Yep, that is me again. So I've got two things. Number one, road rename request, Detweiler, I think is how you say that. We've had a request, that is the new subdivision, the Heritage. There's an individual that is moving in there that requested a name change. I provided that email inside of your agenda packets with some suggestions that they had come up with, Willow Oak, Magnolia. You can read that in your agenda packets, but just wanted to bring it forward to you all to see if you were interested in changing that name, and if so, to one of these names. There is a process that we would have to go through with communications to make sure it's feasible, but obviously that conversation starts here, and then we can go from there.
I mean, the Detweilers have a long history in the village, and we voted on this, a year plus ago, probably more than that. I don't see a reason to change it. Does anybody want to? I know Andy is not in favor of changing it.
My problem is that there's already 5 houses starting on that street, and I'm sure that they would have a lot of problems even if you tried to change the name, and plus there's 5 or 6 more that's going to be started soon. So, you're getting more behind the 8 ball to start off with.
Hunter, can you come up to the thing too? Because isn't this something that like the developer is going to have to sign off on too? Or do we?
Yes and no. No, if you guys recall, the names of the subdivision were proposed by the developer. They did ask for council's kind of blessing on the road names that they selected. The intent of that was to pay, homage, whatever the term you want to use, towards, historic families here in Marvin and or the previous property owner that they obtained the land from. And I think this request was made from a resident coming in. The short end of why I said yes and no is because we could wait until we accept the roads after the fact to do this, or we would have to then have this initiated through the developer. But as Christina mentioned, it would have to go to Union County EMS for basically sign off.
Okay. Again, I don't see a reason to change it. I read the email. I have to spell my street name every time I give it to somebody. We've got lots of crazy street names in the area. I'm just, I don't know.
And just to clarify, because I do recall the email, but it was just one potential resident that's building a home there?
Yes.
There may have been one other, maybe, but it's this street in particular, yes, Detweiler.
Yeah, I honestly don't recall if she had had conversation, let's see. I was trying to see if there was something in the email that said that she had had conversations with others.
Do we know if she had conversations with the developer? Because that would probably be the first she should go to, you know?
I'm not sure if she has, but I think they're kind of in the same boat as like,
I would just read this real quick, because I don't want to mislead anyone. I've stated on our tone, basically, the misspelling is an issue. I've already had conversations and several confusing phone conversations with family members and future service vendors regarding the spelling. Even on documents from Jones Homes, there's 2 different spellings. I appreciate the historic nature, and I'm paraphrasing here. I would like to note that I can't find any information online about this family or historic significance. I hope we can go with some of these suggestions that I've mentioned to avoid a lifetime of confusing spelling mistakes and conversations. Let's see, prior to closing, and avoid a paper headache for all future residents. So I don't see any confirmation that she's discussed this with other people or the developer. She was willing to pay for a sign replacement, which I had generally estimated around $100, told her it would be more or less, and if that was just for one, but I don't see any conversations on there with others. She could, we don't really know. Is there any desire to entertain one of these suggestions?
I think if they want to do something like that, they should probably work through the developer, because the developer may have a bunch of contracts in place already for, you know, potential buyers on that street, and, you know, that paperwork will all have that name that's currently there. So if it's something, you know, that a consensus of, you know, the property owners eventually get to, you know, I guess they could bring it back later, but to just do that for one person, you know, voicing their opinion, I don't know that it's worth changing a lot of other, you know, things that may already be in the works.
So if there's a consensus for me to let the resident know to contact the developer, see if they can work through that name change with them, and the developer can approach us, and/or wait until a little bit later and they can have more input from the residents that are there.
Yeah, you would just want to see a consensus more than
Okay.
just one person's opinion.
Is that the
I agree.
consensus of the
Yes.
board?
Yep, totally agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all, actually. No,
There
I
was last.
have one more. Yeah, so there's a email inside of your agenda packet. We're going to do the handicap striping at the Marvin Eford Park. There was also some thermoplast that it was either damaged or something happened on Tom Short Road. We're going to include that. Right now, our engineers estimate that at around $4,000. Obviously, we have to get a quote from the actual vendor, which it should be pretty close. So unless there's any objections to us pursuing the Tom Short thermoplast and the handicap, we're going to proceed with doing that. And
Sounds
that's all.
great.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Christina? Nope. All right, moving on. Coffee with Council debrief. That was John and Bob.
Yeah, I was officially slated for it with Bob. Joe actually joined us for a period of time as, you know, he was interested in just engaging with any residents that showed as well. Unfortunately, we just had a conversation amongst ourselves for an hour. There was nobody showed up.
All right, very good.
For the record, just in case anyone saw anything, Wayne stopped by, and as soon as we recognized Wayne stopped by that we had a quorum, Wayne and I stepped outside and had a conversation, and then Wayne left. So in case anybody saw all of us there was no meeting or anything that was held. As soon as Wayne came in, we immediately separated because of quorum issues, and I just don't want the appearance or someone seeing cars there But I will acknowledge that Wayne and I had a separate conversation, and he left, and then I went back in to continue my conversation with John
All right.
and Bob.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the transparency. Next up, consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All's in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, unfinished business. Number one, discussion of the Great Trails State Program grant awarded to the Village of Marvin for $491,925 for the acquisition and construction of the Marvin Loop Greenway Segment S1B. I don't know why I'm having
So
trouble.
before, real quick, before any of these presentations come up, I just want to let you know, because I know y'all are going to have questions about finance and the ability to pay for all this. There's about 3 different items here that y'all are going to discuss before you get to the payment side of things. Jill is going to be prepared to talk to you about our road tracker sheets and potentially some cash flow areas, but I know you're going to have questions on that, so just wanted to let you know, let's just hear the conversation amongst these folks first. We'll come back to you all for official approval of these grants or any changes and modifications to current grants, so just, hear them out, and then we'll go over the financial side of things first, after that.
Okay, the purpose of this today is really just to give you all a couple points on what this grant's going to entail. This is not the formal acceptance. We'll have a resolution at your next meeting for you guys to consider if you want to accept the grant or not. But just the biggest things to know right now, this is a state-level grant. There's no federal funds involved, so that would make it easier to administer. The grant amount is for $491,925. We've previously committed to a 100% match because we're a Tier 3 county, meaning we will have to put up, in addition, $491,925. This would be for the acquisition, the construction to finish the Marvin Loop running from the proposed end of Phase 2 around Saddle Avenue, up Marvin Road, down Joe Carr to Wheatfield. It's important to note that once we sign the contract, we have 3 years to be done. We have to have it built, done, everything paid for, project closed out within 3 years. And that timer starts when we execute the contract. But before we can even execute the contract, we have to go through an environmental review process. I have not dove deep into that process yet, just because we've not accepted the grant, and I don't want to dedicate the time until I know that's what you intend to do. We may be able to do that environmental review in-house, but I may need to come back to you all for additional funds for a study. I have to really dig in there and see what those requirements are.
Say that again.
Which part?
We've got 3 years to complete it.
Yes.
Once we sign the contract.
Correct.
We don't have to sign the contract, if I'm hearing you correctly, we don't have to sign the contract until after the environmental study is
Correct.
completed.
I need, one thing I don't know the answer to yet is how long we have to complete the environmental review, because I would imagine there is a timer on that too.
Okay, so that, and then how long do we have to sign the contract saying that we're in?
We want to accept the grant.
Like, how long, like,
Well, the first thing we would do is we'd consider a resolution of acceptance at our next meeting.
Yeah,
If you guys
okay.
want to say yes, we'll start down the environmental review process, and then it'll just be once that process is finished, then they will give us the contract.
but is there a time frame that they, it's 3 years to complete it? Do we have a year to sign the contract?
I don't think we do, but I will have that for you guys at the next meeting.
Let's find out how long we have, because that's going to make a difference between how fast we need to move on the environmental stuff.
And just one disclaimer too, we did not budget for an environmental survey. I don't know how much it's going to cost, but
don't
we
either.
would have to pay for that up
Can we
front.
not use some of the grant money for that?
No,
No.
you can't use a dime until that contract is executed.
I know, but can't we reimburse ourselves for that?
My understanding is the funds are only for the acquisition and construction, not environmental studies.
Can we just confirm that?
I can.
Perfect.
The only other thing I'll say is, I know we're going to talk about finances in a few minutes, but this will likely not be enough money to actually finish the loop.
Okay.
We will have to
All right.
find more money.
Okay. Well, but we've got almost $500,000 is a pretty doggone good start.
But that's the,
And you may be able to only fund, I don't know, but maybe you can find out if you can only fund
Get to
the
a certain
portion.
point.
Yeah, that you don't finish the whole thing, you just do what you can with the money that you've got, and then if something else
Keep
comes
looking
along.
for more grant money.
let me go back. I'll talk to our folks over at the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. That one always trips me up. I'll get these questions answered and have that for you guys at the next meeting with the formal resolution of acceptance for you to consider.
So more than likely too, and this could be another question, the study and the acquisition could all be done in this, and then we can do whatever we can in terms of construction with the money that we have left. But we would have kind of the framework laid for any type of future, appropriations y'all want to do, or any future grants for the construction piece. But the easements and the right-of-way and all that stuff would be hopefully ironed out in terms of planning.
Well, that was it. Okay, so that's what I was getting ready to ask. Can we use the funds, basically? Yeah, okay, so that's the question. So it's got to be completed within a 3-year period, but if we don't have enough money to do the actual, let's just say the actual construction, the only thing we've got enough money for is acquisition, construction, plans, those things, is that considered complete?
I will ask the question.
Because if we don't have enough money, we can at least use this money to take the first couple of steps, and then we can continue to look for grant money. So when it's complete, what does their complete look like? Is it actually the construction of the entire portion?
I would think not, but that's a good question, and there's likely some grants that we could come. CRTPO might have something at a later date. So we'll get all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll get those questions asked. I've got a meeting with them in the next couple weeks. So I will, regardless, I'll get those questions asked and have you those answers at the next meeting.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Christina, can you, just for the public's purpose, kind of explain how this came about? Who else was awarded this grant?
Yeah, I can't tell you who else was awarded. I do know we've seen a couple of newsletters go out from the league where 2 other municipalities in North Carolina received it. So I assume just 3 in North Carolina. I could be wrong on that, but that's all that I've seen in terms of the newsletters. This was originated from back when COVID happened. There was some funding that was passed down through the League of Municipalities, who then subsequently reached out to us for grant writing services. We took advantage of that and used them to write this grant, obviously with our help and our coordination. Subsequently, we were obviously awarded, and that's where we're at. Butner received $500,000 and Archdale received $143,000. Now, I don't know if that's all inclusive, but that's
I think it's important for the public to know, because I do think this is I think we're at a point in the life of the Village of Marvin Council, and obviously we have the survey coming up, because we're being proactive going after this stuff. 2 things happen. One is if people in Marvin go, we don't want any of this, then do we continue to be proactive in going after this? And 2, there's a kind of an adverse effect to it. When you start going after this stuff and you get awarded and you go, no, we really didn't want it. We were just seeing if we would get it, because we're not committed to doing this stuff. So we have to think years ahead of ourselves of what our commitments are for the Village of Marvin and making those decisions. Are we proactive, or are we just a community that says, you know what, we like just things just the way they are. We don't want to spend any money. We don't want to improve anything. We don't want to be proactive and taking care of things. We just want to live status quo for the next, the term of a council, 4 years. That's why I say it's important that you explain to what the things that staff and this council has taken a position on is being proactive. And we want to get these matching funds. We get, big bang for the buck. But we need to we need to have a really kind of clarity on where this goes.
Well, and I also think it's important to understand that what we've been trying to do with all these grants we've won over the last 3 to 4 years for not just trails, but also taking care of the floodways, things of that nature. It's really to make sure that we're protecting the Village of Marvin residents and making use of the taxes that we're paying to the county and to the state and to the federal government. because if you consider just this grant alone, I heard about $1.2 million was given out, and it was awarded to just 3 municipalities across the entire state, and we, were awarded $491,000 of it. So, I want the residents to also realize that us getting these grants is really a way of us, actually making good use of the tax dollars that they've already spent that would be going other places, if we weren't doing these things proactively.
If I could add to that, the 491, and someone could do the math for me, what does that represent in the tax increase? Is that 3 cents? That we would generate by raising a tax rate 3 cents higher to get that 491. So there's a benefit there as well. And I see Jill just.
I think it'd be different now with the different valuations.
Yeah, it's a little bit, it's more like just under 2 cents,
Perfect.
but very close to 2 cents.
But that would be 2 cents would be how much percent increase in our current tax?
But that would only be 1 year of 2 cents.
Right. But still, it's money that we can't just all of a sudden grab out of thin air. It's there for us. So.
Well, my point being is this is not just for this council, it's for future councils, because, I hear people saying, oh my God, we raise taxes for this and raise taxes for that. And, when you look at, when people make that statement, I would appreciate if they would take the time to understand what it means, what the dollars, the percentages actually mean and what it goes to. It's easy to say, I would never raise taxes. Okay, good. So what I'm hearing is, if you don't want to raise taxes, never raise them again. You're fine with the status quo, and oh, by the way, there's going to be a degradation of roads. Roads that I didn't sign up for. John, you didn't sign up for. Kim, nobody signed up for. But we have them. We can't turn them back over. It's just the exercise of helping the public understand when we talk about budgets and we talk about going after these grants. Listen, I know that there are cities with CRTPO that are very aggressive about going for grants and going for stuff on CRTPO, and they're successful at it. But why aren't we awarded some of that? Because I believe some of it is just because there are people like, well, are they truly going to commit to it? Because once they commit the funds to us, they can't commit them to someone else. You're taking away from someone else. So it's just a balancing act, and that's just my point. Thank you for the clarification on that, Christine.
So, I don't know if anybody on this council doesn't want to accept this. I'm assuming as you find out some more information, correct?
Yeah, we'll get some more information, and we'll go ahead and prepare as if
The
we're going to
resolution.
accept it. We can
Yeah.
always pull it, and then we'll try to get some estimates. Hunter can get some estimates on the environmental based on what just happened with our Dewberry contract on the loop. So we can have some solid answers by the next meeting, I think, for sure.
Perfect. Okay,
That's all.
great. We don't need any motion or anything
No
on this?
action needed
Okay.
today.
All right, great. Next up, discussion of Marvin Loop Extension STIP Project BL0012.
Oh, I need to switch it over for you. Hold on.
Hopefully this works. Please.
Fingers crossed that technology works.
It's typically my computer, not the system.
There you go.
We're up. Okay. So let me just, okay. All right. Council, just wanted to go over a few things regarding the current Marvin Loop kind of Phase 2 project. If you guys recall, we were awarded the funding for this project back in 2020. We were awarded a total of, it was a $1.7 million project, where we were on the hook for 40%, and then the grant funds were 60% for the project. It is a reimbursable grant, meaning that we have to front all the cost and submit reimbursables for the project. The the 40% plans have been completed, and when Dewberry presented this back to you guys in October, November, I remember, if you guys recall, they asked questions regarding surface material, concrete versus asphalt, lighting, and certain upfits. You guys, or council decided to pursue doing concrete just because of the longevity of it. And with all that being said, the total cost estimate for the construction came back at, and these are the 40% plans, so this is not 100%, and these are very conservative numbers, meaning that they're on the high side for a reason. Came back for the total construction at $4.1 million. With that being said, staff's been looking at some alternatives. There are some potential cost savings. If you guys recall too, that when this grant was proposed or was seeked, part of the idea was that it was going to be somewhat funded through either fee in lieu, or potential portions would be constructed by some of the property owners / developers of the properties in the Marvin Heritage District. And with the two properties that have been rezoned here, Marvin Grove and Marvin Oaks, they do have in their development agreement that they are either responsible for constructing their portion with the approved 100% plans and or paying a fee in lieu with the 100% plan cost of what it would cost to construct on their property. So there is some cost savings that's going to knock out that.
Do we know what percentage of the linear footage fall into those two?
I do. I'm going to go over that here in a sec. So what I'm looking to kind of get some direction on is that I've discussed with Dewberry and NCDOT on some options with some cost savings. The first one up front, obviously, is doing asphalt compared to concrete. That would save about $500,000 right away. And I've talked with our engineer on this. The existing trails asphalt is, the only difference, I guess in short, the only reason why we were looking at doing concrete is because it does lower maintenance over time. But from an asphalt standpoint, it's not like you're going to see a huge cost savings there in the long run. And so that's kind of one thing. Would that be something that staff can pursue with with Dewberry to potentially go ahead and just commit to doing asphalt compared to concrete? Is that any problems there? Like I said, that's $500,000 cost savings right there just on the estimates.
I mean, I think, yeah, we got to get this cost down
Okay.
as much as possible. So it's going to match. So, that's good. Did we perchance look into that porous, what we're going to use in the park?
No, but that's probably going to be
More expensive?
costly if I had to guess, yeah.
Okay.
So the second,
And the one thing I'd note too is that, for many years, the asphalt part that we have in place now, we never had a public works department, and we really weren't doing any ongoing maintenance to it. And it actually has lasted pretty long, and we just recently resurfaced a part of it, but we resurfaced it. We didn't redo the whole thing. So, I think if we do go with asphalt, I think we'll even be able to improve upon the longevity of, what we've got in place now,
and
which has been pretty good.
And I will mention, I did talk with our engineer on this, based off of kind of just tentative timelines on when this would be constructed and then when phase 3 would be constructed. It would almost be spaced out 3 to 5 years apart, which would allow for council to kind of do one of two things at that time. Would be to potentially look at either resurfacing and trying to keep all the asphalt in the same kind of life cycle, or then you would be looking at, you have it broken up in phases where from a capital planning standpoint for your routine maintenance, you could break it up every 3 to 5 years on resurfacing or Fox Hill or kind of those repairs, because they're all going to be on different life cycles. So there is kind of some benefit there where it's not all going to be fresh and then you're going to have another huge cost 10 years down the line or something like that where you got to resurface it again. So yeah, I agree. I think that asphalt isn't going to be an issue, and I think it does bring some consistency with the existing trail. I just wanted to get council's confirmation on that. Next one, any other questions on the surface? Okay. Next one is
Just the one thing that I want to add, because I have heard from numerous residents about continuing with trails and greenways and stuff, but this is still just part of the Marvin Loop. You know, we haven't been going out and creating a bunch of new trails and greenways anywhere, but this has been part of a, you know, more than decade-long kind of slow roll, you know, where we've worked within our resources to really complete this one project, which, again, will connect to Village Hall and things like that, with some improved parking with some of the commercial areas. Will give access to everyone in Marvin to utilize it. So I just want to reiterate the point that we're not willy-nilly going out and with the limited resources that we have and creating more trails and greenways right now.
And I also want to mention that, just for clarification, we were awarded this in 2020. Obviously, costs has went up, inflation's went up, and that's also why you're seeing the cost estimates come back the way they were. So, with that being said, the next two things, just let's talk about the two rezoned properties real quick. I did have Dewberry do a cost estimate of basically looking at what our potential savings would be there, either if they pay a fee in lieu and or construct their portion. So on the Marvin Oaks property here, off of Marvin School Road here beside Village Hall, Dewberry estimated, based off of material and the earthwork and utility relocation and everything that would be done, would be saving roughly $242,000, either through fee in lieu or through having them do the work. And once again, there could still be, that's like the best, but there could still be some other cost savings where, depending on syncing up, where they might be doing utility relocation and pay a fee in lieu for maybe just the portion of the actual like cost of material for the construction of the trail and stuff. So, but that's just a raw number of based off of if nothing was done on the property, that's what the developer would either pay, or that's what we would save if they were to construct it for that property. It's a very similar number for the Marvin Grove property, $244,000. So right there is roughly roughly $500,000, a little under, of additional cost savings for the project. So it's bringing that, once again, that total down. We're almost to $1,000 on those construction costs, or sorry, $1 million on that construction estimate at the current moment. Any questions on that? Because that's just kind of information. Good. The biggest thing is, I've talked with CRTPO, and obviously, as Jamie was mentioning, like this is our first funding opportunity that we've had with them, that we were awarded funds. They want us to complete the project in some form or fashion, instead of just potentially trying to scrap it. So one option, kind of the other option that's at hand, is that reducing the scope slightly. So this project was outlined to go all the way to Saddle Avenue. Based off of the initial 40% designs, we've actually decided to stop it on Ennis Brooks property, and then we would have to do a crossing over to there's an existing path there at Woodcliff, just because one, there's an existing path there. Looking at the long-term planning of that phase 3, most likely the path will run up on the Firethorn side. The grade's better, dealing with less property owners, and that will be a longer cost savings for that portion of that project. So one of the things that was driving this cost up too was that DOT was requiring us to do what is called a Hawks pedestrian crossing. It's the one with the flashing lights, stops cars for pedestrians to cross, because if the speed limit's over 45, 35, I can't,
45 there.
I think it's 40, yeah, if the speed limit is 45 or above, they require you to have a Hawk. We talked with DOT. DOT basically said they still want us to build the trail, but they're going to try to find a way to fund the Hawk and not make us pay for it as part of this project. So there's another roughly $100,000 in cost savings.
So hold on, so they want to stop it at the southern side of the entrance of Innisbrook?
I'm going to get there in a sec.
Okay.
No, what this is showing is us still building it as originally planned to cross here at Woodcliff. This is where the crossing would be to connect to that existing path
All I
there at
see is
Woodcliff.
an Ask AI assistant. Go up higher. Pull it up just a little bit.
I can't.
Oh, my good gravy.
There, is that
Okay.
good? So, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's annoying. Go away.
It is. So in that red right there is basically where the crossing would be into that existing portion at Woodcliff. If you guys, I can pull up a Google Street View if you guys aren't familiar. But when Woodcliff was constructed, they have a little concrete path that runs through their common open space at the front, and it comes up to about 15 feet off the edge of the road and stops. So essentially, this would create a crossing. We would then install that 15 feet to connect to that, and then you would have your next portion of that path.
Okay, but I'm confused. So you're still going to run it all the way down in front of Innisbrook? Stop it? Not do the crossing?
Correct.
Okay.
That's where we're at. That is like current scope.
So basically stop.
Yes.
So we were going to bring it across?
Originally, when the 40% plans or when Dewberry finished the initial routing and I think presented to you guys back in, I think it was in October, November, this was part of the original scope, is to do the crossing. Because we were doing the crossing, we were going to either have to do what's called an RFFB, the rapid flash and beacon, which is still roughly, I think, $40,000 per one, or a Hawk, which is the more expensive ones. Yeah, DOT was going to require the Hawk. And once again, with the cost already being where this was at when we first got that news, we were like, hey, is there anything we can do about this? So essentially, we would bring it, basically, we'd probably not do the crossing just yet, but we'd bring the path to where it would cross, stop, but also try to seek up DOT getting safety funds to also construct the Hawk at the same time.
Yeah, this is also because originally we had it extending past
To Saddle.
all the way to Saddle. And I believe even some of the residents of Saddle and stuff said, well, that's not really important to us, and especially if we're crossing the street, it makes sense to kind of cut it off back a little further.
Correct. Some of the resident there at the corner had some, he was supportive of the project, but had some concerns regarding tree removal. On top of, if we were having this project just end at Saddle, it didn't really make sense, and especially as we further looked at it, that's when Dewberry said it makes sense to actually have the path on the other side of the road as you go towards Joe Carr anyway. And so that's where we kind of did this redesign early on last fall to not have it extend all the way to Saddle and do the crossing to the existing path, and then phase 3, or the remaining portion left, would go all the way down Marvin Road on the Firethorn side for the most part, and then cut over at Joe Carr, and then connect with at Wheatfield.
Okay, so if we're not doing the crosswalk, it's going to save us another 100,000?
Correct.
Ish. So, okay, now, that's, all of that sounds good. I do get a little heartburn if we do cross the street on the Firethorn side, because, you've got golfers who are going to shank it, and people are going to
Are you saying if we
put the walking path right down beside the golf course? I got a little heartburn there, and I don't know that they're going to let us do it.
Who? Firethorn?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it's in the right of way.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's the other positive.
Okay, well, still.
I
Golf
guess-
balls, heads.
That's
So-
fairly protected by trees though, Kim, I think.
Do you,
Along number 2 and number
three?
3?
Yeah.
Yeah, notice it's a par 3 right there, which,
I'm not so much worried about number 3. I'm more worried about hole number 2, because you got
yeah,
people who
but
are.
that's pretty, it's hard to get a ball through there. But then again, in the winter months, it could be a little easier.
Okay.
Well, that's something
I'm just throwing it out there. Just
I
that-
get it.
that's something during the phase 3 planning we'd look at. Like, if you go drive Marvin Road now and you look at the grade difference on Firethorn side versus the internal, that's a lot. That's also then potentially working with about probably, I think, 7 to 8 different property owners to potentially either get easements if we can't do it in the right of way. Because the only other option right there would be to do curb and gutter. Yeah.
Like, it's just something for us just to think about.
So the other option that we have, or there's 2 other alternatives that I had Dewberry kind of cost out. And this would be then reducing the scope slightly. One would be as you were mentioning, having the project stop at the southern entrance of Innisbrook. So where then it's not that much, but it does save roughly $400,000. But that would then allow, and once again, some kind of additional cost savings there, gets it to where we were kind of about and around, but then we would pick up part of phase 3 and just and route it and go from there.
It's just delaying the cost.
In a way, yes.
I mean, I mean, for me, I think it just makes, like, I mean, we're just delaying it, you know, and if we can get, all the other things are having somebody else pay for something, trying to get DOT to pay for some stuff, like, but for me, I think it makes sense just to finish it, because we're gonna have to pay for it now, we're gonna have to pay for it later. Paying for it now is gonna be cheaper than paying for it later. So we might as well just go ahead and get it to where we're gonna cross the street.
Okay. So then I want to, if all of council agrees with that, then I won't even go into the other alternative, which basically would have it stop at the existing preserve on Marvin Road, the existing asphalt path there, basically just having it go to there, if that makes sense. So it's basically, yes, it's delaying, shortening it, but it's to also keep it under the umbrella of this funded project and still complete it. But if council still wants to, you know, proceed as is, then I'll kind of get into the next part of the funding aspect of some of this.
And refresh my memory, what was the issue where the house that we just allowed that new building to the right of that, between that and Innisbrook? Isn't there an easement down there with power lines?
Say that again, Joe. I don't know if I. No.
To the right of the property, if you're looking at the property from Marvin Road, this is between the property owners and Innisbrook. There's an easement, I thought, that went down the right side of that property. And I believe there were power lines. Is there no access there?
I'm sorry, I'm not following exactly where you're
Joe,
at.
are you talking about the little house that's on Marvin Road?
Remember that house we approved for the garage they put in?
Oh, that's to the left. No,
That's further down.
Yeah.
there is no, but yes, I know what you're talking about. So backs up to Marvin Estate, between Marvin Estates and Innisbrook, there is every house, there's no easement back there. There's no, because we've looked at it, most property lines back up right to each other.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember what that,
Yeah.
what that was there. Okay, great, sorry.
Okay, so with that being said, we're looking at with going ahead and basically doing asphalt compared to concrete. That's knocking that down to the construction cost, and then to roughly 3.6 million, and then that doesn't include the about $500,000 of cost savings with either fee and lieu or having them construct. Let's just estimate for this conversation 3.1 million for the total construction costs of the project. We were awarded 1.3, so there's still a shortfall there. The option that the village has is to, we can go, I've already talked with CRTPO on this. They each year do basically kind of they have a amount of money, a shortfall pot that we could go for shortfall funding. We would still be on the hook. It's still split 60-40, but it would reduce that. So we would be looking at anywhere from 1.7, essentially it'd still double the project if you think about it, because that's a 1.7 shortfall, and it would be 60-40, so we'd be in the same boat of having 1.3 and 600,000. So that's what staff's planning on doing. We would do it next year though, because in short, what we could do it now, the window's open now. The issue is that the way the scoring works is basically you want the lowest amount of points, and depending on where you're at in the process, so it's like we're still in engineering, you get 3 points, where if we were right before construction, we get 1 point. The other thing about waiting is that when you're further down, you have those 100% cost estimates, so we will have a better idea of knowing exactly how much the shortfall is for the construction. I just want council to be aware or make sure that, you know, for planning purposes and with all these other projects that we're looking at having, we're going to have to commit additional funds one way or another. And that anywhere from like the 1 to 1.5 million.
And that's basically our match of these grants that we're getting.
Correct.
More or less. Okay, and if some of these other properties within the Heritage District during this process decide that they want to rezone, and maybe we haven't already completed the loop, then obviously we would get, as part of their approval process, we would get fee in lieu or have them build it if it hasn't already been built. If we have already built it, then we can still require the fee in lieu for the trail that we've already built.
I think you can always ask. That might be more of a Chaplain question. I think it's going to be kind of contingent upon
It would have to,
when.
I think when you take any fee in lieu, it doesn't have to be for a specific project, but it has to be something related, and it has to be something nearby that.
Correct.
they-
So
So it really could be for Phase 3 because, I mean, that's going to be down the road, so it really could be for Phase 3 that we could get some additional funding.
correct, or in this instance, from the Heritage District standpoint, the path is on the internal side of that road, and we've already had 2 rezonings on that. The next properties are the churches. I don't foresee them, going through the rezoning process for this. And there's one other property there at what we deem, there's the Aju property there at the roundabout of Newtown and Marvin Road. There are properties on the outer side of Newtown that could be submitting a rezoning soon. I don't know. I haven't really talked to any of those property owners. I know that the Fincher property has been one that I really thought would have been the first, and that he's been, I've met with him multiple times regarding kind of his vision and stuff. Let's just use his property, for example. Once again, for clarification, this is for example only, that a rezoning is submitted on the Fincher property. We could potentially, where he would be required to install sidewalk and stuff along the frontage per the zoning ordinance, we could look at doing a fee in lieu. It's kind of, you could potentially use it there. It's one of these things you just have to
I
think
was
through.
more thinking about the corner property down here.
That's the only one, I mean, maybe, but I have not had any conversations with
Have
them.
we asked the churches if they might want to possibly, since we're going to be putting in a very nice sidewalk in front of their property, that they might want to,
Donate.
maybe?
Most of the properties we already, so these cost estimates, I think there's only technically two properties that we would have to get easements from. Most of it's within the right-of-way, which we don't then need an easement. The issue with some of these cost estimates is that because it's a rural road and has shoulder and ditch, there's certain portions that we'd be installing curb and gutter. That's one of the things that kind of got some of this cost up, because we have to make sure that the road's functioning properly. Without that, like that, it's either that or yes, then we're like, for example, the Marvin Methodist Church, they have those 2 nice oaks kind of in there, kind of in front of their church, in between the road and their parking lot. That's an example of like, we either do curb and gutter there, or we have to bring it up and around that, and then it doesn't look right. And so that's stuff that when we walking with Dewberry numerous times, like we looked at all kind of alternatives, but for the most part, the only property that we need an easement is actually that corner property. I think, maybe one other. Because we either have easements in other areas, or it will be within the existing NCDOT right-of-way.
Or they're granting us an
Correct.
easement? Okay. Okay.
So I know that was a lot, but I think I just wanted to make sure you guys kind of understood where we're at with this project. We're still moving forward with Dewberry's in the process of now completing their 70% plans. I just wanted to make sure, staff had direction on, one, Dewberry designing these plans how council would like regarding material and routing, but then 2, also looking at the financials of it over the next 2-3 years.
And I mean, any money that we think that we might be able to go for besides just CRTPO, like, let's try. I don't know what other funding opportunities. I mean, I love the idea if we can get NCDOT to pony up for some safety money, that would be great.
We'll look into it for sure. I think even with the money that we received for Phase 3, there may be some ways to not commingle the funds, but get the most bang for our buck in some of this. That may be helpful. But other than really shortfall, with this being a CR already kind of funded through federal money, other than shortfall requests, I'm not sure if there's anything else, but I think that's something that Christina and Jill and I, we can all kind of look into to just see if we, find something and then apply and just maybe see if we can for sure.
Great, perfect. Anything else on that one? You need us to do anything?
Nope, just mainly wanted to present this because like I said, I think these next 3 items are kind of all about road projects and financials of it.
Okay. All right, next up, discussion of cost estimates for assuming maintenance responsibilities for Newtown Road from the Waxhaw Marvin roundabout to the South Carolina state line. Christina.
Sorry, I don't know what you got going on. What is this? So at one of the previous council meetings, you all had discussed taking over Newtown Road. I gotta find this in my agenda item. Here it is. It's gonna be approximately $475,000 to get it to standard where it needs to be today in order to meet our spec manual. We did meet with the engineer after our last council meeting to go over some questions to figure out specifically some things on here that I think Councilman Wortman wanted to discuss. So we drove out, we drove the site. Essentially, the number is what the number is. There's some allowances in there that we may or may not need, but he also mentioned there's some things in here that we may have to end up moving some money around for various things. So he feels pretty solid on this number. He did state that it's not something that needs to be done right away. We could probably buy 2 years, potentially 3, just going to be dependent on how it wears. So it's not something that we have to do immediately today if we take it over, but it is something that we're going to have to put on our radar in the next couple of years.
Is this something that we can maybe do in phases? Like,
You can, but if you drive down basically from the roundabout, you'll see there's various sections that kind of have alligator cracking, so it's only going to start to deteriorate even worse when the water's penetrating in. You'd want to get that stuff corrected pretty quickly because you're just going to have some substrate issues if we don't address it at some point. So we could crack seal it. We could do some things to buy some time, but I don't know that we would suggest doing it in phases. I mean, we could crack seal like phase 1 to buy a year or 2, but at some point in the next 2 years, we're going to have to put this chunk of change down for sure. I don't know that they crack sealed in here, so that might be an additional.
have we asked DOT if they would be willing to?
We have not yet, but that is something that we would do.
Let's do that. I mean, I still think this makes a ton of sense to do. I still think it protects coming through Newtown Road in the middle of the village of any sort of widening that could be coming down the road. And we can slow down the speed limit, make it annoying for people to cut through, and it would be good for the Heritage District to have it. So, I mean, I get the fact that we're going to have to put some money into it, but let's ask DOT if they're willing to do that. But I would like to see us continue to move forward with getting this.
Could we just review again for a second what some of those things are that would come back into our control? Because I remember there were some things that would come back into our control and some things that wouldn't, as far as, controlling the speeds and, controlling future construction.
Yeah, I think what Chaplin came back with, if I'm not mistaken, was we can control the speed limit if we own the road, and we can control the trucks on it because it's not like a main, highway. Like, if it was like a main highway, we wouldn't be able to. Is that?
Yeah, he did.
Well, if we're doing though from the state line
Yep,
to the first roundabout,
second roundabout.
oh, to the second roundabout, to the one right out here, okay.
Chaplin did say somewhere along the lines of, we can control the speed limit through trucks, we have that authority, but there is some little nuance that DOT could come back and say, sorry, but we've got to trump you on this one. I don't remember the specific language, but essentially that's what he said. It's unlikely, but it is a very fine possibility.
I mean, if it was like Ray Road and we were trying to say, nope, no 18-wheelers on Ray Road, like we took it over, it's ours, like not the DOT would ever let us do, not that we want to do that, I'm not saying that, I'm just using it as an example. That's a main traveled road.
So-
Like, we wouldn't be able to prevent trucks on that. I think this is not a main, I mean, trucks seem to think it's a main traveled road, but again, what we're trying to do is prevent the cut-throughs, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it'd be local traffic only, so trucks could go, but it would be only if they're intending to go, deliver locally there.
So,
Not from South Carolina all the way over to Providence to go do runs.
But the point y'all made too, that I think you can't lose sight of, is right now, South Carolina DOT is working directly with NC DOT, and and they say, hey, we're gonna 4-lane all the way that, are you open to doing that? Sure. We have to be mindful that that's a very important thing, that if NCODT's out, again, it's about having a seat at the table. I've always said, if you don't have a seat at the table, there's nothing you can do or say. So for as important it is to, none of us want to take on new roads, but at least let's have a say in it. Because that's happening. I mean, you look at the growth from down 521, it's just going to offshoot down other roads, and I would just be careful not to give that, if there's a way we can have control of that and not lose sight of it.
Jamie, as South Carolina DOT, you go to the meetings, my understanding is all the little roads that go off in South Carolina, they're going to add extra lanes to them.
Yeah.
To our state line.
Yeah. So again, all they're gonna do is go to North Carolina DOT and say, hey, we're running 4 lanes up to here. Are y'all open to doing that as well? They can put something anywhere. But if it's no longer NCDOT, it's Marvin, they have to come to us and we're going, listen, there's no chance of that happening. We've actually cut the speed limit down to 25 from the state line to a second roundabout. So we're reducing the number of vehicles that are coming through here anyway, so.
and so if there's a consensus, so it sounds like you guys are interested, but you want DOT to kind of front some of this, or at
I
least.
mean, let's at least ask them to.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
the worst they're gonna say is no. If we don't ask, we're not gonna know. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I just want to say, as I'm listening here and stuff, and not to throw a wrench in this, but my focus in going forward, obviously, this can happen at any given time in the future, us taking this over, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're only at 50% of ownership of roads, and funding for roads should be encapsulating the rest of Marvin, in my view, in that unfairness where we don't have all the roads in Marvin and the funds should be directed there, and then we can talk to the state level. But that's the opinion of one. I don't have a vote, but I have seen that. That has been my biggest issue of not getting into the roads, because we wouldn't be able to do it at 5 cents when we were at 5 cents and have everybody, and they claimed within 8 years we would have all of Marvin roads under our jurisdiction. That has yet to happen, so.
Joe,
Well, I do just want to clarify too, though, and I know, Joe, you always speak about all the other Village of Marvin roads, but I think it's important to discriminate that we're talking about subdivision roads in Marvin. That's what we've taken over, and we've been reticent to take over the new towns, the Waxhaw Marvins, the Providence, those other roads that are within the Village of Marvin. This would be the first time we would be acquiring one that is one of those more arterial roads, Now, are there good reasons for it? Yeah, I think there are, because of the influence, potentially extra lanes of traffic could cut Marvin in half, if they were to do that Newtown from 521 to Providence Road, and that's certainly something that we don't want to see happening in the future, and to the extent that we can influence that, for our benefit, I think is worth doing. Now, the $425,000 to get it up to spec, in the past, we've partnered with DOT to share the expenses of something like that in order for us to take it over. So, you know, I would think that would be the avenue that we would try to do. Yeah, we'll both have some skin in the game, but in order for them to kind of put that off to us, you know, for future maintenance, they're willing to pay some of the upfront costs.
Yeah, and I mean, very good points, John, and I agree with them. And Joe, what you said was we can do this at any time. Theoretically, we could until South Carolina DOT and North Carolina DOT have made a deal and we didn't know about it. And they're like, hey, 4 lanes coming right through. And we're like, wait, what? Wait, hold on a minute. And again, if we're really trying to do the Heritage District the right way, like we want control over Newtown Road so that we can slow things down. If we have to, we can put in, you know, some cute little islands in there with some trees, and nobody's going to want to cut through there. So I think there's a lot of really good reasons that we want to do it, but I definitely think we need to at least ask NCDOT if they, you know, would be willing to, you know, since we're willing to take it over for future maintenance, you know, could they be willing to help us get it up to standards?
I can send him an email.
Okay.
If there's no more questions or comments on that, whenever Jill comes up to speak about the next item, she has kind of some numbers in there or some placeholders to plug in some numbers just in case they come back and say no. So we'll need to kind of plug those numbers in and talk about that when she comes up, so just so you're aware.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions about this topic? Okay, I would like to call a 5-minute recess, if we can do that really fast, and then we'll resume with Jill coming on down for number 4. Okay? Do you need a motion for that? Okay, I'm going to make a motion to 5-minute recess.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. We'll be right back. Sorry. Okay, we're going to resume our meeting. Thank you. Mr. Joe, are you back? Mr. Mayor? I know, I'm looking at him. Joe, whenever you get back, we're going to start. So let us know when you're back. And yes, I see that you have a hard stop at 11:30, Mr. Mayor.
I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to begin. Makes my eyes bleed. 11:15. It's 10:25. Eat breakfast.
Joe, are you ready?
Do you want a granola bar? Heard. Hunter, my fee in lieu number under fiscal year 26 to 27. Is that still accurate, based on what you just said? Doesn't seem like it. All in the same fiscal? Or can I slap another 50 in the next year?
Mr. Mayor, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so we're back in. Austin, you ready? All right, next up, number 4, discussion and presentation of roads and greenways projections and implications. Jill.
Hi. So, it's been a while since you guys have seen this, and it has changed a lot because of the 3 topics of discussion that you just had to sit through. Myself and Christina and Hunter did meet and start really combing over this to make sure we're kind of giving you worst case, but also some optimistic things in there. For instance, we have put that we would get shortfall funding from CRTPO for this major cost increase on the construction of Phase 2. But you'll note in parentheses that it says it's not guaranteed. We also have entered in there some fee in lieu money to put towards Phase 2, as Hunter was referring to. Again, it says not guaranteed, but we think it's pretty likely. But as you can see, we're starting to run into trouble a little earlier than we were. The more of these things that we consider and the more of these things that we take on. So what this sheet represents is only the village match portions of some of these things as well. The stuff that we are not going to get reimbursed for, it does not reflect the money that I have to put out and wait to get back. There is a separate place that I kind of track cash flow, and that's an in and out, so it's a wash. I'm going to send it out, but it's going to come back. But it is something for you to keep in the back of your mind as you're kind of making these decisions on accepting grants and or agreeing to move forward and finish, Phase 2 of the loop. Because I'm not as concerned about where I'm going to find the village match. I feel like we have some avenues to go down. We always have ways to get that. I'm a little bit more concerned about where we're going to have or find, $3 million to front, let's say, the construction phase of Phase 2 of the loop, and then wait to get that money back in. As you know, it's not that I don't have a bank account with $3 million in it. So we're very strategically trying to look at this and figure out how, from a cash flow standpoint, we can make that happen. Christina and I will continue to discuss that as well. We haven't exactly gone down the path yet of discussions on installment financing or loans or anything like that. We certainly can, but it really was just kind of showing you where we're at the moment, letting you guys decide what you want to pursue, and then we can go back to the drawing board to kind of figure out a lot of the finances, if that makes sense. But this sheet that you're looking at does not take into account Newtown Road. You'll see some orange boxes on here. It says Newtown Road to the state line takeover. That's where I would be potentially plugging in under fiscal year 26 to 27, for instance. I would put in that $425,000 that we just talked about, or reduce that by any amount NCDOT is willing to contribute as part of getting the road up to standards, right? But in accepting that road, we were told that we would have to bump up our routine maintenance schedule by $75,000 every year. So just to put that in perspective, right now y'all are alternating where we do $150,000 this year for roads that we already own. Then we plan on $150,000 in the next year for new roads that we're taking on and bringing up to standards. And we've been staggering them every other year. So that's what you see in the first two rows under expenses. It says VOM roads and then NCDOT roads, right? Right now we're staggering. If we take on Newtown, we're looking at annual maintenance and savings into a capital reserve for having to repave or resurface it probably every 10 years due to the volume of traffic that it will receive. And so we're looking at having to sock away 50 grand every single year in capital reserve so that 10 years down the line, we have 500,000 or whatever it's going to cost to repave it. Plus 25,000 every year to fog seal and crack seal it to kind of keep it in good shape. So these are things to consider when you're considering taking on this portion.
I mean, I feel like those are very, like, conservative, or, yeah, I guess conservative numbers, because I've lived out here for 15 years, and that road hasn't been touched, except for the construction that has just happened. It hasn't been touched. It's no crack seal, no fog seal, no anything. And if we can keep trucks off of it, and we can slow it down where it's annoying for people to come through, then we're not having near as much traffic on it. So I think, yes, I think you've got a plan for that, but I think that is, you're over planning for it.
Well, what it currently plans on is, based on the engineer's estimate of what it would cost today for us to bring it up to standard, is $425. So we're thinking 10 years down the line, costs are up, inflation, everything's more expensive. But we're also thinking, if we are taking the time to kind of on our schedule, because, you know, our standards are higher than NCDOT, we'll do it more often than they're doing it. If we can every year kind of make sure that we're doing some preventative routine maintenance on it, that we should be able to have it continue to cost right around $500,000 every 10 years for us to repave it. So it's just $25,000 a year to maintain that stretch to the state line and do some routine maintenance. The other $50,000 per year is just socked away in savings, so that when I do have to repave it in 10 years, I've got the $500,000 in that bucket, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely makes sense. I just think you're being very conservative with those numbers, because, again.
You think it's going to be higher?
No, I think it's going to be lower.
Oh,
Because,
okay.
again, it's $425,000 to get it up to snuff right now, and it hasn't been touched since I've lived out here, ever.
Yeah.
They've done nothing to it, except for what just happened with construction in the roundabouts. But, I mean, they haven't done diddly squat. And again, if you can get rid of traffic,
Yeah.
it's going to help extend that life. So I think you're overestimating, which I think is fine, but.
Yeah, I mean, we hope it's lower. That's just sort of what the engineers told us to plan for and save for, annual cost and 10-year repaving costs.
They want to get the work. They want to do all the things. I get it.
Did they not look at the possibility of less traffic on the road and definitely smaller traffic?
I can't answer that because Davey got these costs from them, but maybe Christina can, I'm not sure. I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it. I didn't ask that specific question, but I don't think.
Wayne, I didn't hear what you said. I didn't get the mic was on, I don't think.
What I said was, did we not look at lighter traffic and smaller traffic, tractors and trailers excluded, or that the number that we get now? And the answer was no.
Because we really can't justify that until, I mean, it's all going to be enforcement based, so.
Yeah, I'd rather go with the higher numbers and, you know, be pleasantly surprised 8 years down the road that, you know, we haven't spent it all.
Well, and we're being very conservative with the increases every other year for how much it's going to cost us to continue to do routine maintenance on the roads that we own. So if we're over budgeting because of Newtown, we'll have the funds for if we're sort of under planning for maintaining the roads that we currently own.
I would like to see them fix the low-lying areas before we do anything on that stretch down to South Carolina, where anytime it rains, we get a foot of water in the roundabout.
Yeah, I had that conversation with Christina. They need to get that fixed before we can even consider taking that over, because it is just ruining that roundabout.
Do we have any questions? I know this is really hard to read and look at. It makes my eyes want to bleed, Christina, and I hate looking at it, but we have to. But I know it can be confusing.
I don't have a copy of it, but just put one aside or put it in my box if you would.
Joseph, I emailed it to you right before the meeting started. It's in your inbox.
Okay, then I didn't look this morning.
That's okay. I wanted you to have an electronic copy so you could at least follow along.
All right.
So this is just a reminder for you all looking at this and anyone listening at home. This is not a budget. These numbers are not set in stone. This is not necessarily spending that is approved by council. This is a planning tool where I put in costs that I expect, anticipate, predict. It changes all the time, which is one of the reasons why I don't have it posted anywhere. It's really an internal document that I use to try to plan, and it constantly changes as some information comes back. Or, for instance, you'll see this red box under fiscal year 25 to 26 that says 50,000 curb and gutter. I don't think Christina's talked about that yet, right?
I have not. I can go ahead and do that
Are you
now.
planning to do it today?
No, I can. It's not a big deal. So, yeah, so we're getting some quotes on some curb and gutter repairs. We're going to do some sidewalk repairs. We've got some money budgeted in this year to do sidewalk repairs. While we've got the guys out mobilized, we figure we may as well do an inventory of curbing. We've had some neighborhoods like Canterfield Creek that has some kind of big cracks in their curbs. So while they're out there doing some sidewalk repairs, if we can kind of couple some of the curbing issues as well, we might get some additional cost savings. So we're going to get an inventory on curbing, just concrete work. And if we can kind of combine these projects, we wanted to go ahead and get that addressed. So just threw 50,000 in here for today. We do not have that budgeted. We'll have to come back and get a budget amendment once we get some more estimates on that. But we're currently working on that inventory in-house now, and we'll have a better idea in the next couple of weeks.
So that's just an idea of how this can change any day. I mean, as soon as she found out about that potential cost, she comes to me and says, hey, heads up, we need to put this in the tracker. I might be asking council for this. I'm not sure how much yet. Let's put this in as a placeholder. And then we kind of see how it affects all the numbers down the line. And I make notations and comments on it, so I remember, what is this 50,000? I'll highlight it in red if it's not budgeted, and I know we need to get approval from you all. But it changes constantly, and but it's a good tool to have, because when you guys are discussing, taking on a grant, for instance, you'll see towards the bottom, about 3 lines up from that blue total expenses where I have a typo, I just noticed, awesome. You'll see GTSP Marvin Loop Section 3 Village Match, right? So that is the grant that Austin was presenting to you earlier for the $491,000. I have it kind of split between where I think planning and engineering and maybe right-of-way acquisition will take place, and then actual construction in a different year. But then I've also plugged in, unofficially, I have plugged in as a placeholder another $400,000, because to Austin's point, he had mentioned that 491, even though it's doubled by a match, it may not complete that entire section. One, we might have overruns during construction, or we might realize that it's not enough to finish it and we're short. So I tend to plug in a number as a placeholder just in case, and that's not necessarily money we'll spend. We might apply for something to cover it, but at least it's there, it's on the radar that this might be another expense related to that project that I'm always thinking about and planning for, so. Does anyone have questions or concerns about what you're seeing? I mean, you should, because there's a lot of red. So the red means we don't have enough money.
Well, thank you to you and to Christina for putting this together and having this as a proactive tool to look at. I would say for those in the general public who think we're just frivolous with money and frivolous with doing crazy things with their tax dollars, before they make public statements about such bad management, fiscal responsibility of money, that they take the time to come in and look at a tool like this to understand why we make the decisions we make, as opposed to just, I can shoot arrows at anybody for anything, especially if I don't have the facts, especially if I don't use numbers, especially if I don't use real-life things that are going on. So this tool, I would put out to the public people who want to have their, and listen, if we're wrong, by all means, show us, but show us with facts and numbers, and this is a very valuable tool to hand to someone and say, this is where we make decisions. We don't make decisions off public opinion. We don't make decisions off of just, it feels good, yeah, let's just do it. Valuable tool. Thank you so much for doing this, and Christina and all staff that has these type of spreadsheets and information that can be publicly shared. So I would just say, take the time for those who want to cast stones and cast arrows and whatever. Take the time to come in and look at numbers and go, oh my God, I see what you're dealing with now. Oh my God, I now fully understand the process of making a decision on a tax adjustment, whether it's keeping it the same, keeping it what, increasing, whatever the case may be. Valuable tool. It's there for people to take a look at. I would highly recommend people that want to cast stones, fine with it, but let's do it with facts. Let's do it with real numbers, and this is a great tool to start. So I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, I have had 2 residents actually come in and meet with us. One met with me, one met with Christina, and we did review this document, and I was able to answer questions. And I do think it was a healthy discussion. I know the resident that I met with left and really was quite impressed that we've been able to do as much as we've been able to do so far with roads by not raising taxes, but also could kind of see the impact of this, and almost immediately was like, I don't see how you're not going to have to need to raise taxes at some point. These are legitimate costs, but it made sense when they saw it on paper.
Well, but the challenge should be, Jill, and this is where I'll get on my soapbox a little bit, is the people that are out there, the constituents that are out there that love to throw rocks at this council and this staff. You said 2 people come in. I know about, I could probably list 20 names off the top of my head that have never looked at this, have never looked at our budget, hell, we've had people go make statements like, we've got $14 million cash on hand. Please, in my God, tell me how responsible that is. How responsible is that statement? So I implore people, come in, look at these things. Throwing stones when you don't have an ounce of understanding and you haven't even looked at the first number, the first budget, the first figures on roads and how it all comes together. Listen, I can trash people for anything. And it's really fun and easy to do, especially when I don't have facts.
Jill, so by and large, just looking at this, the time we really start getting upside down on things is in 2029, 2030.
Technically, 28 to 29.
Correct.
That's when you're
Uh,
first in the
it's-
red
And
overall.
that was going to be my point, which is, at that point, you know, what we're recognizing here is that while we've increased some money, a penny, you know, 2 years ago, specifically for that first roundabout, and we've talked about eventually having to extend that penny, even though it's dedicated for roundabouts, to go towards those other roundabouts that'll be coming in the future. And roundabouts or, traffic lights, whatever we end up deciding when the time comes to decide for those. But sometime before, in 27, 28, that's when we're going to have to start to implement some sort of tax increase, to bring in the revenues that are going to cover those shortfalls.
And, again, there's additional options that I can suggest as well. Right now, all of the vehicle tag fee revenue that we get immediately goes into an assigned fund allocated for streets. We could look at, I believe, making a decision that the portion of our ad valorem that's for motor vehicle taxes, maybe we start allocating that towards streets. We start increasing, right now you are doing a capital transfer every single year as part of the annual budget. You're putting that into that capital reserve for the roundabout that you have under construction right now. Oh, not under, in planning, sorry. And we've talked about continuing that for potential critical intersection improvements at Joe Carr and future potential other roundabouts. But we can recommend, additional pennies that would go towards helping to kind of beef up this roads and streets capital reserve fund a little faster or a little hardier, because less than $200,000 a year in vehicle tag fee revenue is not going to get you to the goal line. It's not enough money. And the other thing that I just want to remind council and anyone listening at home as well is, I know Councilman Line mentioned it and Mayor Polino mentioned that this whole situation with us being in the roads business, let's call it, was decisions made by prior councils that you all are sort of stuck with. And when you look at other municipalities in Union County, currently, our tax rate, which sits at 5.63 cents, I believe, is the next closest municipality that actually owns roads is at 17 cents. So we are attempting to do quite a bit with almost 2/3 less than what other people who own roads and are having to deal and make these decisions with the taxes money that they're receiving and the tax rate that they are implementing. Am I suggesting we be 15, 17 cents? Absolutely not. It's just for anyone who doubts that this council has really stretched dollars and been very smart and conservative with your spending. I think it's a testament that we've been able to get to where we are today and we're able to be doing this stuff with roads while keeping such a conservative tax rate comparatively to what every other municipality in Union County who owns roads is currently taxing their residents.
And one thing, for those that are concerned, and myself included, because my taxes went up with the revaluation and other things, but for those that are concerned that we went slightly above revenue neutral for specific items like the roundabout and things like that, had we not done that, these red numbers just get potentially pushed into years earlier. And that's what we have to face. So, I think it's important for our residents to realize that, what we're trying to do is be more than fiscally responsible. And for those that don't understand the impacts from the decision years ago about us taking over these roads and are striving to make it as fair as we possibly can for all residents of Marvin to have quality roads. That's really what we're talking about here. So I think it's very important that you point out our tax rate between the ones that don't do anything with roads versus the one that do. And eventually, the ones that don't do anything with roads are probably going to end up having to pay the piper as well, one way or the other.
Yeah, and I mean, just a reminder as well, there was only one municipality in Union County that went revenue neutral. One, it was Weddington. They don't own any roads. Every single municipality in Union County did not go revenue neutral except for them for this fiscal year. And of all of the municipalities in Union County, we had the second lowest margin above revenue neutral. There was one beneath us that was 8% above revenue neutral. We were at 9%. So even though this council did try really hard to be revenue neutral, I think we went as low as possible above it while meeting goals for roundabouts and critical improvements that residents told us they wanted, not for sort of willy-nilly spending, but it is important to remind people that we were one of the lowest above revenue neutral as well for those that are comparing.
Just to refresh my memory, Jill, now, if I'm not mistaken, any new developments, and this may not be a question for you, but any new developments are required to take over that road. The state just doesn't automatically take it over. So we, in that sense, are ahead of the game because we already have 50% of the roads, and all the new developments we've brought in are under our jurisdiction. But for those municipalities that are still growing, and Weddington, for instance, has a lot to grow, they're gonna have to start figuring out how to pay for those roads, I would assume, correct?
They don't own roads, so
They don't, but I'm saying isn't it the state, did the state not say any new development for municipalities? Or maybe that's a question for Hunter.
that's going to be a question for Hunter. Is the state law now that for new developing neighborhoods, the town has to own the roads?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I do know that there was kind of language being passed around on that where DOT wasn't just forced to take on more roads, that they're already struggling to maintain what's existing, but I would have to look into that.
I wouldn't think that that's an actual law because all municipalities don't participate in the road business. So there may be some type of legislation that says it's encouraged or it has to be held by an HOA, but I wouldn't
I think it's
wouldn't
if
think.
you have POW bill funds
Okay.
and it's new neighborhoods, you have to. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, maybe that was it. That's my miss. Thank you, Kim.
Welcome. Any other questions for Jill? You got anything else you wanna, any other good news for us? I'm gonna take all your stickers back.
No, please don't. I mean, just know that we are working diligently to find grant money to offset these costs. We will continue to do that. We know none of us on staff want to ever have to turn down a grant. None of you ever want to turn that down. Why would we want to leave free money on the table? That being said, it's my job to make sure that we have proper cash flow to be able to agree to take these things on. So I may very well come back to you all and say, you can have this or you can have this. I can't give you both unless we can push this off a few years or unless you all, want me to go take out some installment financing or we need to make some adjustments to the tax rate. So those are going to be difficult conversations that we'll have to have, but if it helps meet goals or it helps us to capitalize on free money that is being offered to residents and taxpayers, then those are conversations that are worth having that we'll continue to have in the next couple of months.
This is great, and you may have to come back and tell council, you can't have both, you have to pick one, and it's gonna be a discussion that just has to happen. But I think right now, I think we're in decent shape for the next couple of years, so I think really looking at, the retreat at the beginning of the year, this is gonna be like a really important conversation to have.
And I'll just make a note too, before anyone kind of looks at the POW bill revenue, where it's the shortfall of 800,000 is projected next year. Before there's any speculation that you guys should have known about that shortfall, that big of a difference before today, we just plugged numbers in that made it that large of a shortfall. So y'all wouldn't have known that up until today, just so everyone's aware that's listening at home, is that fiscal year 26, 27 is showing that POW bill revenue shortfall based on what was put in for the CRTPO. If you see the yellow highlights of 904,000, that pretty much is what caused that to jump so high.
Yeah, it's basically the increased costs of construction that Hunter relayed to you guys during his presentation that caused all of those numbers to increase, which then made the shortfall even bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Hunter's fault. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. All right, any questions, or am I good?
Nope, you're good.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Jill. All right, next up, new business, discussion of comprehensive plan request for qualifications, RFQ results, and selection of most qualified firm for something. For whatever Hunter is getting ready to talk about.
So we advertised an RFQ for the comprehensive plan that we have been discussing for over about the last year now. That was then budgeted for this fiscal year. We did receive 5 submittals, which I was ecstatic about. I was kind of worried to potentially only get 2 or 3, but we got 5 really good submittals. And those vendors were from InFocus, Bowman, Inspire, Hill, and Kimley Horn. Ptolemy and I did a deep evaluation of the 5 submittals, and in the RFQ we advertised, we outlined what the evaluation criteria would be based off of kind of 4 areas: project approach, project understanding, staff availability, and flexibility, as well as their relative experience and qualifications. We have ranked, or Ptolemy and I both individually scored those, and then we totaled the total scores, and that summary of those scoring is in your packet. In short, Kimley Horn was the top-rated firm, with Inspire and InFocus being really close. They definitely, all 3 of those had very good submittals. Like I said, the other 2 were still very good. There were just some things that we felt when scoring they were maybe lacking or didn't necessarily have a full understanding of what we're looking for. And so with that being said, staff's recommending Kimley Horn as the selected firm, and looking for council to basically approve that and allow for staff to get into contract negotiations, which I also then want to talk about after we kind of get through the firm part. Does that make sense?
Does anybody have any questions for Hunter? Did everybody have a chance to look at all the presentations?
I read through I think y'all did a great job of putting the table together and the scoring system with it, which helped. Before we get to the actual individual presentations, it helped quite a bit, so great job on that.
Was there any, for the council members that did review, was there any firm that potentially maybe stuck out more than maybe the one that we're recommending? I mean, because this is kind of, I want to, with those 3 scoring all within like a point of one another, there was, like I said, there's pros and cons of either way, how you kind of look at them. But staff felt, like I said, Kimley Horn had really good experience. They're local, and we thought that their RFQ submittal was, like I said, they had a great project understanding, really pushing the public engagement side of that. Inspire was very similar in that nature too. Inspire was the firm that did Weddington's plan, and they do have some other local Union County experience. We last week, after we initially reviewed these, we did look at some of these firms' kind of other past experience, some of the plans that they had put together, and still feel confident in Kimley Horn with looking at kind of theirs. And you know, they're very big on visuals, which I think a lot of people are visual learners, trying to take the data and make sure that it's clear and presented through graphs, or summarizing it in a better way for people to kind of digest it. And that's what we kind of saw in they outlined that in their RFQ, and in some of their prior plans, we were able to kind of really see what they meant by that.
Well, I think that part of it is extremely important, because this plan is not really just a plan for us here within government, but it's a plan for the community, you know? It's a plan for residents to know what they can do with their properties. It's a plan for people that own the land, you know, to be able to understand what they're doing. So, you know, I think that is a really important component as you look through the different ones, you know, the ones that do have those visuals and make it more interpretable to the common resident, you know, I think have a leg up there.
Agreed. We good
Have any other questions for Hunter on this?
on the firms? Yeah, because I want to talk about like I said, the budget part next. When we put this RFQ together, you know, we've been discussing kind of, I know that I spoke with all of you, kind of looking at different plans, kind of what aspects in this comprehensive plan we want. So we drafted the RFQ to really, hey, we don't know what we want, or let me phrase that. We know what we want, we don't know how much it's gonna cost, we don't know necessarily if we fully need it type thing, but we wanted to kind of get an outline of, you know, how they would include that, incorporate that into the plan on top of get some cost estimates. The cost estimates were included. Cost estimates were not taken into consideration during the evaluation period, just want to make that clear. However, looking at the cost, the lowest was like 160 and the highest was 240. With that being said, we have 75,000, kind of 50,000 budgeted this year, 25,000 in the CIP for next year. Now, again, this all started as kind of being a Marvin Heritage District master plan, but there was more stuff that we could get out of this. The other thing that we have in the CIP for next year is an annexation consultant. One of the aspects that I made sure in the RFQ to outline is kind of an annexation, like our future land use map would have the future land use designations of our annexation area, and also kind of in that implementation matrix and guidebook that they would be providing us, laying out kind of those steps for potential avenues for annexation. So it's kind of killing two birds with one stone. I just want to know where council's comfortable on setting a number when we do these negotiations. There's definitely aspects, if you look at the cost estimate, that we probably won't need or need to go as much into detail. One of them, for example, was like transportation. A lot of them were, you know, in their RFQ was saying like one of the deliverables would be some cross sections and road improvement areas. We've already kind of somewhat done that with the critical intersection with the county, on top of they're probably going to identify NCDOT roads mainly. So there's definitely ways that those costs are going to probably go down because of certain scoping components won't necessarily be needed or in that as much of detail. But I just want to know when we begin these negotiations on if council's willing to potentially commit some more funds next year to ensure we get a great product out of this.
And did this continue to include the PRG component that we've discussed?
That is a separate plan. I will mention that the vendor that was, there was only one vendor that submitted for that plan, and it was Bowman. Bowman did submit for ours too, but Bowman was the fourth scored based off of that. Like I said, we didn't take that into consideration when reviewing the qualifications. There could be some overlap and or some potential cost savings in that. I don't really know. But there's definitely like I said, there's definitely looking at, I mean, even like Kimley Horns, let's see here. Like Kimley Horn estimated total for the different task of 193. Once again, this is an estimate. It's not, you know, set in stone. But there's definitely elements of it that potentially could be completely taken out or definitely reduced, which I do believe around, that's why I'm kind of thinking 125, maybe a little bit more for the total project. This would be through 2 years. But the goal of this is to, as your point, get a very nice detailed plan that is easy for staff, council, boards, the public to pick up. And it goes further and beyond like land use decisions. It goes into, you know, implementation of other aspects of it, stormwater, I mean, the annexation component, and it will kind of factor in like the greenway, I mean, the Parks and Rec aspect of it too.
Well, okay, so to John's point, can you go back and whoever we end up picking, can you say, we need to kind of add, yeah, this component into it? We can take out transportation, you know, some of the things that we just don't need, and say, hey, and then we can kind of get more, like you said, more bang for your buck, and then we're not having to do a separate PRG.
We can add to a certain extent, as long as it doesn't evade the spirit of the bid
Yeah.
requirements. You can do that via change order, as long as it doesn't exceed a certain amount, or we get into that kind of evasion of the statute
I
issue.
mean, okay, so how much money do you, so you're thinking 125-ish?
I'm saying 120, I mean, I'm saying 125 because between what we have for this plan, funded now and/or planned in the CIP on top of that annexation consultant, that puts us at 125.
So not an extra 125?
No.
125 total?
Yeah, I'm looking for a total because Christine and I would then go and negotiate with these, with the selected firm I then narrow down that project scope and the cost not to exceed. And we'll come back with a contract. I just want to know what number, if it's 125. I think 150 at the top end would get us everything that we're looking for out of this plan.
And it seems that the one that scored the best, at least as far as their estimate is concerned at 193, kind of was in that middle of what the low to the high was.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because and I'll, mention one of the things that we put in was, kind of doing I'm going to use the term economic development study. It's not like economic development. It's mainly more of it's data. It's looking at the housing data, looking at there's some parts of Marvin that have older structure, looking at all that and looking at where, for us to expect potential investment in the future. I mean, you're kind of seeing that happen now, where you have some of these older, larger properties either going for sale, subdividing, houses getting knocked, something along those lines, and that's going to probably be a trend you're going to see continue to happen. Now, yes, those developments have to be approved through rezoning, but this plan will kind of lay out where to expect that, if it's really, if it's a good fit for, all those things. But certain aspects of that market study type thing can probably be watered down too. That's another area that I think cost savings would come in.
And if we have the opportunity as we negotiate with, the chosen vendor, and we do ask them about the PRG, it's important to realize that what we would be looking for them to do is not create a PRG master plan, but to take the one that we already have and kind of adapt it so that it's in concert with the master plan overall.
Correct. I mean, this comprehensive plan, as I explained, would be the umbrella. Most of the time when these firms, when you have these other adoptive plans, they build off of those, or at least make sure that they incorporate it in where this would be the main plan you go to, and it may reference that, for example, right now, the 2023 Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Plan, but it may outline some of the key components of that and how it, make sure the plans are talking to one another and flow and are consistent. And so I do know, like I said, that we do have another, the next agenda items regarding the Parks and Rec Master or Comprehensive Plan, update and changes, and that's with a different firm, but I do think there still may be some ways to work it all together.
Okay, anybody have any other questions for Hunter? No? Okay, so, does somebody want to make a motion? I feel like I always do it. I'll do it. All right, I will make a motion to approve Kimley Horn as option number 1 as the most qualified and responsive proposal, with Inspire Placemaking Collective as option 2 and InFocus as option 3, and allow the village manager and planning director to begin contract negotiations with vendor to define the final scope of work and budget.
So moved.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Next up, consider awarding Bowman Consulting as the selected firm to solicit the updated Parks and Greenways Master Plan and authorize manager to begin negotiations. Oh, well, here's your updated Greenways Master Plan.
Yeah. Yeah, so Bowman Consultant was our only firm that we had submit. They look great in their submittal. They've done work in Mecklenburg County and some towns similar to our size down on the eastern part of the state, and then they've done some big projects like Breckenridge, Colorado, and stuff like that. So they look good. So we're just making the recommendation to go with Bowman.
Do we want to wait and see what this happens over here before we approve this?
That is either if Christina wants to jump in, or a legal question, because that is something that, like I said, we did kind of have that Parks and Recreation / Greenway in that RFQ as a chapter, not where it had to be really in detail, but potentially it could be absorbed in it, but I don't know how that would impact since we advertise that from your end. Do you have?
I would recommend to just go ahead and approve it. We can always negotiate with both firms at the same time. We have to come back with an actual contract, so that'll give us some time to work with both vendors to see if we want to add it in as a change order, if it's going to be a minor cost, or if we want to proceed with the vendor that we have selected for the Greenway Master Plan. So either way, it doesn't hurt.
Okay. All right.
You're not committing yourself to anything by negotiating.
Got it.
I'd like to make a motion to award Bowman Consulting as a selected firm to solicit the updated Parks and Greenways Master Plan and authorize manager to begin negotiations.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next up, consider awarding construction of Village Hall Park to TBD
To be determined, yeah.
with a cost not to exceed TBD with a 10% contingency and allow manager to execute the contract. So we don't have an award, we're not awarding it to anybody?
Yes.
Well, essentially, what it's going to boil down to is the bid alternate. This is the closest we've ever seen a bid come back at. They're within hundreds of dollars of each other. So it depends on if you guys are going to do the bid alternate, and I'll let you,
Yeah, so
It's the sidewalk.
it's
Which-
that sidewalk extension
so we're
out
not
there.
doing the sidewalk extension, so which one doesn't have the
So
sidewalk extension?
not doing that, so it would be Ainsley Construction with the lower base bid. So that would be,
can you plug in, is there a consensus that we're not doing the sidewalk? Because if there is, we can go ahead and plug in the
We don't
numbers.
need to do the side, I mean, that's a waste, like, come into the parking lot, park, come up to the thing, we don't need it. It's
Okay. If that's the
it's a
case, we
redundancy.
can, and if that's the case and everyone agrees, then we can just update the motion
yeah.
to reflect. Unless there's objections to that, which I'm not hearing any. So, okay, Austin can update that motion. The lowest bidder is Ainsley, based on the base bid. We're required by statute to go with that vendor. They were responsive. We looked at everything in the packets, but,
I've updated it. You've got,
right. Okay, ready?
it's ready for, yeah.
You want me to do it? I'll do it. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to award contract for the construction of Village Hall Park to Ainsley Construction with a cost not to exceed $733,811 with a 10% contingency and allow the manager to execute the contract. Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Next up, open topics. Anybody got anything?
I do, real quick. Just, again, it's been kind of a thing with me for a very, very long time. When you come into Marvin and you see the Marvin city limit sign, no, you can't see it. I don't know if we need to cut down limbs. Obviously, it's too much to have a nice sign, so I'm not asking for that. But could we at least get something done where you can see the sign when you come in that says Marvin, coming in on Marvin Road? It's not a good look. And if we could just somehow get that trimmed, or something done, maybe even clean the sign or something, but hopefully we can get that taken care of.
we can look into it. I mean, we are short-staffed right now in Public Works, so it's probably going to be something that they would have to do in the fall. Unfortunately, that's in a right-of-way of DOT, so it's not really on anyone's radar to maintain unless it's an obstruction for vehicles, it's a safety issue. But we can look into it, but I can't promise anything in the next couple of months.
No, I got it, but is the limb is, I mean, it looks like a couple limbs can be cut.
Yeah.
But
We'll look into it, see what we can do.
thank you.
Kim?
Yes, sir.
This just came up last night. I was on a conversation, or 2 nights ago, with my wife and an individual who's a member of the Village of Marvin, a resident, and they were inquiring about a program, and my wife being in the business of what she does as far as employing people and that process. There was a question about how they go about finding work for kids and people with special needs and stuff. And it was an alarming statistic that we learned that almost 80% of special needs kids and people are unemployed. And I think I'm going to try and bring this to WUMA when I get there next, and find out if there is an opportunity for villages or municipalities to have some sort of program that employs that, or if there's something that we could do at all. And I'm not suggesting the Village of Marvin do it yet, but something to kind of put that in. Are there opportunities where we could potentially hire special needs kids? It's something just to put on the back burner. Right now, it's very beginning of the discussions of how we can network and help these people out. And it was just an inquiry from a resident I thought was interesting.
I agree. All right, yeah, we can definitely think about that. As you learn more, please let us know.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else have anything? Okay, moving on to review of action items. Austin?
All right, so we'll look into those tree limbs by the Marvin Limits sign. Christina and Hunter will begin negotiations with Kimley Horn with Inspire Placemaking as the backup option. For the comp plan, for the Greenway Master Plan, they'll start negotiations with Bowman Consulting. I will research those questions you all had with the Great Trail State Program and bring you those at the next meeting. And we'll move forward with the thermoplast at Marvin Eford Park and Tom Short. We'll inform the resident in the Heritage at Marvin to proceed with going through the developer for changing their road name rather than the village. Hunter will approve the banner request for the Marvin Ridge High School Marching Band. I think that was it. Oh, and Christina will convey Concept A with a star inlay to the Independence Fund. That's all I got.
Christina, you got anything? Nope. All right, moving on to the Mayor Pro Kim list. Look how that just rolls right off the tongue when I say it. Joe stumbles over it every time. The Mayor Pro Kim list. All right. Christina, did you execute the contract for the yoga services? Yoga services?
I have not. I can't remember what's going on with the yoga contract.
Okay. Mr. Honeycutt will fold the updated trail standards into the village's spec manual.
That's Mr. Nestor, actually. and
All right,
we're-
can you
we'll
change
do
that to Mr. Nestor? It's done?
Yeah.
Perfect, let's complete that.
That was on your consent agenda, actually.
Oh. Yes, it was. John, did you invite all the candidates to the candidate forum?
Yes, and having some continued conversations, about the location and format.
Okay, and the location has changed to the barn?
We did reserve the barn. It hasn't been fully decided, but that seems to be the indication by most to do it there, just to have more parking available.
Okay, and do we know when we're gonna have?
Expect to have that finalized in the next 2 to 3 days.
Perfect, fantastic. All right, that's all. Next up, council comments. Mayor Joe, we'll start with you since you're remote.
Thank you. Actually, I don't have much in the way of comments, but I do want to thank staff for getting that information out, kind of tagging on what Jamie said, how important that is for residents. And I encourage all residents, including those who are running for office, to take a deeper dive into what we're trying to do. There's no special projects that we're trying to complete. These are all stuff that we really don't have a choice. And if we want to take advantage of these things, I think it's imperative that we, have a plan in place and not leave it for future councils down the road. Finally, I'd like to say congrats to Austin on the being, I guess, elected as a board member. And I didn't catch the last part of it, Austin, but what it was had to do with your clerk group that you went, and I couldn't hear that, but I know you're on the board, and that's important. Gives you more exposure, and it's terrific for you. So, but thank you all, and I apologize for not being there in person.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Wayne?
I'm good.
All right. Jamie?
Oh, staff, thank you for all you do, as always. School started back, and so just make sure that we are mindful of the kids that are on the streets and in and out of schools. And but thanks, staff. Thanks our deputies, and for all they do as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. And I'm going to ditto that. So with that being said, I'm going to make a motion. Are we going into closed session?
Yes.
Yes, we are. I'm going to make a motion to recess into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A13 for review of closed session minutes and to consult with an attorney retained by the public body to preserve the attorney-client privilege. Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are now in closed session.
Have a great day, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Look, I got you out of here on time, early, too.
I know. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have a good one.
I was going to say, let's go grab lunch. Do we need our thingies? You do. Thank you.
Oh, we do?